Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another RGL cast. My name is Jarrett, here with Space Ghost to bring you guys Cat Posse versus the Portland Yaomen. This is RGL Invite 6's Season 6, Week 7A, and this should be a pretty hyped rematch that we're going to be seeing. Gully Wash, once again, is going to be the map. These teams faced off earlier in the season on that map, and it was a 5-3 victory for the Portland Yaomen. But going on later in the season, and I'm pretty sure this was a randomly picked map. They didn't actually pick band to get to here. It's a nice surprise to see of all the maps that would have been randomly chosen. It's a rematch of all maps, so gonna be curious to see how these teams have changed and adapted over the course of the season to see who's gonna come up on top this time. How you doing, Space Ghost? What are you thinking about this match when you first see the matchup between these two teams?
I'm doing good, and I think it should be interesting. It's two teams that are kind of new to Invite, so uh, it should be nice to see how well they've kind of developed over the season. As you mentioned, they played on this map previously as a 5-3, but
It's
it's
5-3.
yeah 5-3, and it should be interesting to see if whether one team's kind of pulled ahead, so to speak, with the full season, because I don't think actually, I think some seasons maybe have gone the way they expected, especially if it's your first season to Invite. Cat Posse is like 6 and 7, especially for your first season, that's not that bad, A lot of new teams struggle right out of the gate, so I think both teams here looking for a statement to prove that they are, learned a lot and grown over the season.
Yep, they're neighboring teams after all, so they're pretty well contested. I'm pretty sure they're slated for seeds like 6 and 7. I'm pretty sure. So definitely
yeah.
trying to put themselves on the top, and it's one of those matches where if you want to place yourself as high as possible just for your own sense of pride and maybe revenge, if you're Cat Posse in particular trying to get a victory against these guys, then you're definitely going to want to pull ahead on this match to put yourself above your opponents. Let's go over the rosters. Maybe you haven't been watching, and especially for the Portland Yaomen, I don't think we've even casted them this season. Maybe once, if that, but I can't remember what map it would be if so. So let's go ahead and talk about the players on each of the teams. I'll go ahead and go over the Cat Posse roster. It is Shining Star and Yum Yum on Scout, KTB and Toss on Soldier, Kura on Demo, and Ray on Medic.
And for the Portland Yaomen, we have Scarfs and Rio on Scout, Alexandros and Walrex on Soldier, and Det on Demo Man, and Styles on Medic. And I do think one thing to note is that, we may have mentioned it previously in other casts, but for Cat Posse, they actually, last season, they won the Div Below invite, and they moved it up, and they actually managed to keep all 6 of their players, which I think is pretty impressive. So I think that's one thing just to note, is that Cat Posse does have a lot of, coordination and synergy.
True, that's definitely something to think about. You play together for so long, you show up on these maps, and even if you haven't played it a ton, you still have, or at least recently, you still have a ton of experience over the course of however long you've been playing for them. Probably been at least 6 months since they were the advanced winners after all. But on the side of the Portland Yaomen, even though they're a new team, they definitely have a lot of talent and returning players that have shined through and have had playoff performances as well, and as well as just general invite experience. So I think that's kind of the battle when you're comparing these two teams, is what's going to reign supreme. Is it going to be the paper experience of just participating in invite on a couple of your players, or is it going to be raw synergy of, even though everyone's kind of new to the division, you've been playing for with each other for so long that you're kind of more on the same page. So I guess that's kind of what we're looking at here. Just when you look at these two teams raw before you really start to analyze the map and figure out who's it going to really favor. But let's get into that. Let's talk about Gully Wash in particular. It was the match previously in the earlier on in the season between these two teams, the 5-3 in favor of the Portland Yaomen. Like we said, this time around, as also stated previously, it was not picked by either of the teams. It was random. There was no pick ban. I guess neither team. I think it was I think it was picked by Portland, but maybe Cat Posse didn't pick in time. I think that was how it went down. So they actually got everything that they could have picked. So they pick what they're comfortable at. I assume they already know they've won on Gully Wash previously. So if it ain't broken, don't fix it, I suppose.
Yeah. I think the only player on Cat Posse who actually has invite experience is KTB from way back in the day. Other than, but like you did mention, Alexandros, Walrex, and I believe Rio all have invite experience on the Portland Yaomen. And yeah, speaking of Gully Wash things, I think there should be some pretty good matchups here, especially the soldiers. For I'm curious to see whether the soldiers from Cat Posse or the soldiers from the Yaomen kind of pull ahead, considering this is much less of a scout dominant map comparatively to most maps in the rotation.
Yep, it's definitely a map where soldiers can really shine through. I mean, it's you're not super stressed out here. So there's still some room for scout players to shine through when it comes to, being a pretty skilled player and finding success where other scouts might not. But soldiers in general, if someone's going to pop off, it's probably going to be a projectile class, maybe even demos as well. Um, so I would definitely agree with those being some of the like matchups to really look at. I'm kind of when we talk about maybe MVPs or players to watch in particular, I kind of want to look at Toss on Cat Posse in particular because I feel like he might really make or break a whole lot of their success, especially on Gully Wash. I think he is a very talented jumper and he's a very big proponent of doing flashy jumps, including the mid where you just immediately kill the enemy team's Yaomen. So that's definitely going to play a pretty big factor. But Walmrex is doing a pretty good job too. I can only imagine. We haven't really seen too much of his play just this season at the very least because we haven't really seen Portland Yaomen play too much in CAS, but we've seen him previous seasons and he's shown that he does a pretty good job of making space for his team. But he's going to be different this time around because he actually is a heal beam playing pocket for this team rather than a roamer. So it's going to be interesting to see how well he's able to perform even more so than normal with the extra added heals and doesn't have to necessarily be a sacrificial role for his team.
Yeah, I also think the battle of the demo men, Det versus Kurama, that should be interesting too. I think they kind of have almost opposite playstyles. I'd say Det is very good at not taking damage and kind of playing back and supporting his team with all the damage. Whereas Kurama, is kind of a lead the charge kind of in kind of demo. So I think their different playstyles might actually make for some interesting gameplay because two players playing kind of the opposite playstyle and on a map like this where if you're dying as demo or if you're not doing enough damage as demo, it's very obvious and your team can't, perform. So that should be another thing to look out for.
That's very true. It also kind of changes what your initial plan might be when you're facing your opponents. If you, for example, if you want your plan to be on mid to go ahead and try to kill the enemy demo, it's going to be pretty difficult if that demo is relatively passive and isn't really a target, to really get. But it's definitely an option if the enemy demo is basically running into your team and providing himself, well out in the open to be able to be a target to be killed. So gotta kind of change your strategy based on how the other team is playing. So it's up to both these teams to kind of adapt and make sure they can recognize the play styles of the enemy team and what they like to do so they can kind of adapt their strategy to the best of their ability. But like we said before, this isn't the first time they've played Gully Wash, so I think that adds an extra layer of things being interesting because we always talk about how halftime's really important. That's the one moment where you can really change things in your favor if you come up losing at the halftime. But this is I would say this gap is just one giant halftime. I mean, you haven't been thinking about it the entire time in between, but I'm sure if you really wanted to, you could look back on your previous match and think about why you lost or why you won or why it was just in general for both teams as close as it was and make some small adjustments to come out of the gate hot and maybe lead it into a 3-0 at the very beginning. It's a really hard deficit to work against if you just start off the game so far behind because it means you have to change so much to make sure they don't get hardly any rounds at all. So I think coming out of the gate here, making sure you're winning mids and putting early rounds on the board in this first half is going to be crucial for both teams if they want to come up on top this time around.
Yeah, goalie mid's definitely. The goalie mid is definitely one of those points where if you are losing mid really hard, the match is so much more difficult than on some other maps where it's easier to get out. Because goalie, you do have a pretty easily available escape route, but it's so easy for your mid to just die in the transitions that it can be very tough to live on goalie mid if you're playing mids in a certain way.
That's true. So I guess it comes down to, how all in do you really want to go? Do you want to make sure that you are able to go as deep as possible, or do you want to make sure you have a way out if things go south? So I guess that once again just kind of comes down to team play style and figure out, what route you want to take versus your opponents. But we've talked a little bit about the players on each of these teams and Gully Wash itself. But at the end of the day, this match only one person can win, and it might be by margins that people might not expect. Who knows? When it comes to what is going to happen at the end of the day, when it comes to the scoreline, especially important to talk about it because we've had some time to allow viewers to go ahead and predict what they think is going to happen. Space, what do you think the end result is going to be between these two teams?
I think I consider Cat Posse, even though they lost on this matchup on the same map before, I think Cat Posse would be considered kind of the favorites here. I think that I'm gonna say if I had to predict the score, it'd be Cat Posse 5-2 or 5-3, something like that. But I could very easily see it go the other way, as because last time it did go the other way.
That's true. I kind of agree with that sentiment. I think it's really hard I mean, we're in a weird position because it's really hard for at least me to be very pro Portland Yaomen just because we've seen so little of them. So we can only really go off of the numbers that we see on their match page. So you can go off of the fact that they won previously, but you can also look at their results recently and say that they've been kind of shaky versus some of their neighboring teams and dropping a lot of rounds and having some close matches. Where Cat Posse recently have been pulling some upsets and being heavy hitters and against a lot of these teams. So it really could go either way. I'm kind of leaning towards Cat Posse in like a 5-2 area, but really anything could happen on Gully Wash because it's so mid dependent. And speaking of mid, we are going live into the first mid of this match, Portland Yaomen versus Cat Posse. Curious to see who's going to come up on top and lead the momentum into their favor.
Yeah, we do have Posse here, kind of lingering by both soldiers for Cat Posse on the low ground. Alexander's actually going to die immediately from the flank from KTV. I don't think he expected it either. Toss behind, going to drop Wallrex super low. It looks like that's going to just signal the Portland and Yaomen to leave, but not before Scarf's fall, so they are down a player.
Yeah, immediately lost one right off the bat. I guess that's kind of the plague of going so fast. You just kind of get picked off. KTV actually creating a lot of space, putting some damage onto the enemy team, but not quite enough space or damage for his team to really do anything off it. So just a sack for now. No soldiers up for the side of the red team, but blue team doesn't really have a whole lot of resources themselves to move off it too much. Waller's going to peek through big door just a little bit to see what's up, but at the end of the day will not push through it. Don't want to do anything too risky at the beginning of the map. So at the end of the day, we're approaching on our first stalemate of the match. Even Ubers, blue team rotating towards big door to make sure it's pretty reinforced, but at the end of the day, red team in the driver's seat to try to break the defense of the blue team.
Yeah, we're gonna just fall to a stalemate here, so it's probably gonna be untossed, kind of ruin his KD to go in here and get a pick. I think it's interesting that the Portland Yaomen actually did rotate their medic very early into big door to try to get. Speaking of which, Toss actually ended up behind, so now they have a soldier behind they have to deal with, and they have to worry about the pinch. Whereas there's no real pressure coming from the rest of the Cat Posse, so it looks like they're just content to let Toss take some derpy 1v1 behind and blast.
Well, they're kind of on the hunt though. Might turn into a 2v1, but Toss actually initiating onto a scout. Gonna lose against the scout class though, so not gonna find success there. Scarf's making sure he's cleaned up, so that is going to be the sack for the side of Cat Posse. And this doesn't seem like the Portland Yaomen want to really move too much. I know Alexander was also on a hunt behind, so he wasn't really in the best position to actually immediately go into a counter sack. So Warwick's actually going to sack instead with that knowledge, but it's through Gully Wash choke or drop down. I didn't see which one. That's always really rough to try to get through really cleanly. So not gonna find a whole lot of success there, but it's a pretty late sack. It's a lot of room for the red team to start to move. And speaking of on the move, Toss once again jumping through, trying to create some space and getting on to Styles. Actually, Styles surfed into the pipe coming from Kura. That is not the direction you want to surf. That is a medic drop in favor of Cat Posse, who are immediately moving off it. High bomb immediately in, coming from so Alexandros, trying to sink onto Ray, but not gonna find any damage. So at the end of the day, clean second take from the side of Cat Posse after that medic drop from Styles.
Yeah, I don't think Styles expected the red team to be able to peek as far as they did. The demo was just gonna walk them through choke, and it looks like off of that Uber, it looks like, or rather, excuse me, after that drop, looks like Cat Posse is going to be very happy to take this Uber ad into last, but they do have to worry about a Sentry Gun and the Pyro. It's only a level 1 right now, but it's kind of in a little bit of a sneaky spot beneath those stairs, so Cat Posse might, they might not see it coming in, and they might get trolled. We'll have to see.
Yeah, immediately going in, gun goes down off the bat. Det is in water, so the point is kind of covered. Bomb from Ulrichs onto the scout, immediately cleaning him, but Alexander's will fall as well. Heavy on the field, eating arrows, so it's very hard to keep him dead. But Kura's gonna kill Rio on top of the Heavy's hitbox. A nice arrow on the toss, getting him a little bit longer alive so we can get some extra damage onto the soldier, clean him up. Det will fall in water, and that will be the first round in favor of Cat Posse. That was quite the turnaround from that stalemate. It's very swift from 2 to last, collecting the first round of the game.
Yeah, that was quite the pressure they had, and they were just able to get in, get those kills. I think Kurama hit another air pipe. That one might have been accidental. I did not see, but it looked pretty impressive.
An air pipe's an air pipe, but we are going into the next min. Gonna be curious to see if they're gonna be able to clean things up as fast as they did previously on the side of Cat Posse, or if Thor and Yaomen will shape up and make things go a little bit more in their favor. A lot of damage actually onto the blue team, but they're able to make sure that Scarfs is dead. So initiation coming from the soldiers, immediately popped up into the air and not able to find a whole lot. Able to get Shining as a consolation prize, but the shots from KTV are making sure that Shining will be the only person who dies for their team on this mid fight, and that is a wipe for the Yaomen and Cat Posse, only expending one to make sure this mid goes in their favor once again.
Cat Posse came to play. I've been seeing air shots up the red at KTV with another big air shot on it onto a scout of all classes, so definitely what you like to see if you're a fan of Cat Posse. And it looks like they're already going to be pressuring into last year early to make sure there's no gun or any shenanigans happening.
sniper, actually. Rio's getting really weak, but it doesn't look like the pressure's going to be on him anymore to be able to collect that kill. So, normal hone, got a sniper and a gun. I guess the sniper's not exactly normal per se, but the gun is for sure normal. So, it's up to Cat Posse to figure out what door they want to push through. Thinking about Shutter, and Shutter will be the door itself running through. Not be able to get the gun too easily, but Shining actually going to fall to Walrix, who is hiding in secret. So, going to be one person down at the end of the day for this post-Uber fight. Immediately using Ray as well. Yeah, this bomb from Toss is putting a lot of damage though, so despite their medic dying, it's not quite enough. That's just damage upon damage upon damage, and that is a second round for the side of Cat Posse.
That last push was looking a little rough, and then Toss just kind of blind bombed the other spawn and got a med, and they just didn't turn around and see him because of all the distractions. So big play coming in from Toss to secure that last push. We're going to mid 3, and it's 2-0 Cat Posse. So if you're a fan of the Portland Yaomen, you better hope there's some sort of miracle or turnaround here.
Yeah, they really gotta adapt if they want to make sure they're staying alive here, because a mid-loss could spell the end of this half, depending on how things happen. A lot of damage on the right off the bat, though. The lock and those strat coming out from Det and making sure the medic is immediately dead, going for the, if we're not gonna win mid, we're gonna at least take your medic down. So expending both those sorters to collect those kills, and so far it's looking like it's in their favor. Only one alive, and that's gonna be Kura in his own choke. Actually lingering a little bit, but will ultimately decide to jump out, and it seems like they kind of know what they wanted to change. I like the adjustment. If you can't win the mid normally, just make sure the medic dies at all costs to, you know, kind of spell the end of their mid right off the bat.
Yeah, I spoke about miracles, and I looked like that kind of, you know, made one happen with the lock and the killing Ray pretty much instantly on mid. But the Cat Posse does have the sniper here trying to refight second, even though they have massive Uber to set, trying to make some space, and they are making some space, but they're going to lose two for it, and Cat Posse's probably going to back up, although they do have the sniper to play around. It looks like they're pretty happy to just let Yum Yum, you know, take some pot shots.
Yeah, I think the Soldier's trying to make space for the sniper to move, but Portland Yaomen actually were pretty slow on walking in, so weren't able to really get anything off of that bomb. So overall, pretty much a free mid for the side of the Yaomen, and they'll use this Uber to go and last. Kura's caught out just in the middle of no man's land. They're going to immediately die. Toss as well. This is not positioning you want out of Cat Posse. Portland Yaomen punishing them very well, getting so many kills on the board, but dropping some as their own, actually. Never mind Caster's Curse. The start was pretty nice, but they dropped so many people in the middle of that Uber executing in, and at the end of the day, only 2 players left alive from this Portland Yaomen. They have to scurry their way back to 2 with Uber to sat at that.
Yeah, I saw the I saw the kills, and I thought it looked good, and I saw the Brutus with 450 just sitting there, and I was like, you know, not gonna get this last, and looks like it was successful, as they're actually gonna be able to get out of last onto 2 without using, which is very good for Cat Posse. They're gonna have a very sizable Uber to work with into mid, and you know, nothing to really stop them.
And probably bomb through big door. In comes Kurt, trying to get to the enemy team's choke, but soldier trade over on the other side, so not really going to find too much spare that. So 5v5 scenario now, but position advantage for the side of Cat Posse. Gonna kind of prevent Portland Yaomen from walking in too hard, but they're trying to clear some stickies. They're poking around and they're actually walking in early. Doesn't seem like they realize that Styles doesn't have his Uber quite yet. This is pretty much a dry straight through choke. They're gonna go for a flank play, trying to collect some players over on the side of the Yaomen big door, able to get those 2 kills, but extending 2 of their own, toss bombing in to try to get some damage and maybe a force as Styles will not find too much success. They're only damage to call at the end of the day, and it seems like a Cat Posse of, you know, go ahead and left, and Portland Yaomen on the move through big door to continue to use this Uber at.
Yeah, it looks like Cat Posse did expect to kind of sticky themselves off. It looks like we have a sniper at the forwards. I heard a headshot ring. I didn't see on who. And Rio actually, KTV's going to get the force while Rio is distracted a little. And Cat Posse's safely out the last. With already they have Uber, but they're down 2. So Portland Yaomen might try to push off that. It looks like they are. They realize they have 3 numbers and they can get this force for free.
Yeah, perfect opportunity to try to force Cat Posse. A large player advantage trying to work their way and have to be careful. Don't want to accidentally lose too many people to the Uber, but Walrix will bomb in and make sure that force happens. Det getting chased a little bit, a lot of damage onto him, but will eventually get the kill onto Shining. So, you know, down some players, but they have some positioning to be able to get Kura once again. So far, Kura's just been dying over and over and over again. Det is in water, going on to the point distraction for the blue team, but no one's following up. Able to get 2 kills. Oh my god, including Ray. I'm pretty sure Ray dropped down because Ray wasn't sure if her teammates were actually going to be able to get there in time, but unfortunately that spelled her death. So the play from Det going in water as a solo play will find them a way to get an advantage after all of the shenanigans that happened on Cat Posse's last.
That was so chaotic. In the end, Det managed to save it again with just a big play killing Ray. And they're noticing a bit of a trend. They're also noticing that the lock and load pipes from Dead are actually doing a lot of work. I keep seeing him hit a lot of them from kind of, mid-range, not really expecting. And here comes, speaking of which, here comes the Uber. The gun is actually going to take a little bit to fall, but they do have a scout playing the point, and he's just going to cap it before a soldier can get there. So Portland Yaomen do manage to get on the board.
Yeah, they rushed that really early. I'm pretty sure they put like, I want to say they put like 4 or 5 people in that Uber and just immediately rushed half of them to the point to get that really early cap. So momentum kind of swinging in the Portland Yaomen's favor. They're able to put themselves on the board in a 1-2 scenario, but going into another mid, it's still round point depending on how things go. Yaomen are kind of shaping up, but anything can happen on a mid fight. Immediately fast shoulder bomb on occur, kind of locking him out. And it seems like the blue team's kind of split a little bit. A lot of damage on Yum Yum, will able to get some health though to be able to continue fighting in this battle over the midpoint. Bomb coming in from the blue soldiers, putting a lot of damage onto Toss and KTB, but Alexander's will fall in favor of Cat Posse. So far, no soldiers for the blue team. Styles eating a pipe, getting very weak, unable to really commit too far. So these scouts are going to be really red health for the side of the Yaomen. Really weak is Scarfs, has to go behind actually into Big Door, so a little bit separated from your team, but maybe that's what you want depending on if you wanted to go for a flank play or something. So overall, a mid win for the side of Cat Posse, but Scarfs is someone to look at when you talk about shenanigans that might happen behind.
He's getting in right now. Unfortunate that Yaomen didn't really help him at all, but they do have 2 soldiers in Big Door trying to spam, but looks like it is kind of going to equalize here, and Cat Posse is already deciding they just want to get through Big Door, and they've already gotten through. They have a scout behind. I don't know if they... Yeah, they do know. Hey, I'm going to take the 1v1, though. They're so low, and he's actually going to end up winning that 1v1.
That's all you need, chaos. 1 HP. There's so much spam going in Big Door. Yaomen taking the pack and immediately getting on a debt. The damage from his friends at Big Door able to make sure that that's enough to get that kill. And the Uber will actually get forced as Styles running into the enemy team is Rio, but will not find too much. It's actually Alexandros dropping on the other side. Actually, I think an upper toss able to collect that kill. So overall, this chaos reigning in favor of Cat Posse as Yaomen just get picked off one after another. So full Uberad as well for the side of Ray, not used throughout that whole debacle, so they still have this to use to try to bust their way into a maybe unprepared Portland Yaomen. They just spawned. They're barely getting their gun up. They're not really ready for this last push, but here are Cat Posse buffing up and River ready to push through. I mean they're kind of being slow, I think. I think they're a little bit weak, so maybe it's not as fast as I initially thought, but still at nonetheless 50%, still pretty sizable, so here they come through River.
Yeah, they do have the level 2 gun at least, and Kerr actually gonna get, kind of knocked up a little Zuber, but they do manage to get the gun right away, and they have Shining Star on the point here. Gonna get taken down immediately, and a soldier actually in on Toss. Toss waiting for a boat. Doesn't manage to get the soldier, but they do have the Pudis on the high ground. This is gonna be kind of tough. They managed to bomb the Pudis and get him, but they have Det on the point here. I don't know if they're gonna be able to... Oh, Styles is so low. He was gonna fall to the medic, and they're gonna end up getting the round and the half, 3-1.
A little shaky, losing your scouts right off the bat, going for that point play, but at the end of the day, enough firepower to make sure the round is closed out, and the half will go in favor of Cat Posse 3-1. And normally it's normal to see some stalemated gameplay sometimes on Gully Watch, but this was anything but that. This was pretty fast. The stalemates were solved pretty quickly, and now we have the time to see how both these teams are going to adapt going into the second half to make sure if your Cat Posse things stay in your favor, and if your Portland Yaomen kind of shape things up and bring the match back into your hands.
Yeah, well, looking at the stats, I do see a massive game from Toss doing 391 on Roamer, and same thing with Karama, 375. Dead also, doing good work, doing over 300, but I can see that the soldiers from Blue are definitely having a much tougher time than the soldiers on Cat Posse. That Walrex and Alexandros both, they're not too, Walrex is okay on the KD department, but you could just look at their damage. It's just not nearly as much as the red soldiers. The Cat Posse soldiers are having a field day right now.
If you look at like traditional Gully Wash logs, like if you're really nitpicky about them and you're like, all right, you had a class that didn't really do too hot. Normally you wouldn't think Soldier is one of those classes. Like, maybe any other map, yes, but normally it's scouts that kind of have a little bit of a rough time. But seeing both the soldiers on Yaomen just not putting out, at least one of them not putting out like super crazy stats is kind of concerning. It might necessarily be their fault, but it definitely shows that they're not being allowed to play the game to the best of their ability, whether that's their own fault or it's a byproduct of what their team as a whole is doing. So Portland Yaomen definitely need to, we've said before, they got to shape up if they want to bring the rounds going into their favor, but I think we can kind of, see what they, maybe not necessarily what they want to change, but what their overall goal is going to be when we talk about things they want to change. Their soldiers definitely need to be able to, find a way to impact more than they already are currently. Because I mean, look at Toss. Toss is nearing almost 40 DPM on Roamer of all classes, and I don't think he's necessarily baiting either. He's high
He's
on the
in.
death board. He's in.
I think it's a flank thing, actually. I think that the flank from Portland Yaomen are definitely struggling. Maybe not necessarily struggling, but the flank from Cat Posse is able to get away with many more plays than the flank from Portland Yaomen. Now, that might not be the flank's fault. They might not have the space to do it. It might be, kind of a team thing overall. But I will say that I've noticed that the flank from Cat Posse is definitely, right now, they're getting away with a lot that they not necessarily shouldn't be. They should be able to get away with some of the things that they're doing.
That's true. There's been some moments where things could be punished a little bit you don't necessarily see happen, but I think that also becomes like a surprise factor too. If you're able to pull out a play that the team wasn't really expecting, that can be easier to kind of pull it off. So going into the second half, if the Portland Yaomen can kind of recognize what Cap Posse are doing when it comes to making like flank plays and things like that and what they're trying to achieve, it might be easier to make those adjustments you need to, have fights go in your favor a little bit more. We've seen a lot of 1v1s that kind of just go in Cat Posse's favor, and I think if the Yaomen can kind of expect those 1v1s and preemptively turn them into, 2v1s, that it could much easier for them to win. It could be the road that they need to, find some more rounds on the board and kind of flip things in their favor. Looking at some of the other stats that are, traditional to look at, I think there's a lot of similarities, actually, that you wouldn't necessarily expect in a 3-1 game. The medic deaths are pretty much the same. The demo damage in terms of impact, which is, it's really important to note about Gully Wash Mids as well as the entirety of the map and how demo favorite it can be. They're pretty much the same. So I think it's all goes back to you really want to look at the soldiers and do they have the ability to actually contribute what they need to your team? And if they aren't able to contribute, what can you do as individuals as a team to kind of shape things up?
Yeah, I think another important thing is mids, and speaking of which, we are going to our first mid of the second half, and if the Portland Yaomen want to get back in this, they gotta start winning more of these mids, because especially on Gully Wash, mids are so important. But I think we're gonna have, both demos roll out their own side, so no, the other team side shenanigans. We do have some soldiers waddling around on the floor. Not too much really happening, actually. Both soldiers of the Cat Posse kind of just walking around on the floor, and Alexandra's gonna fall early, but so is KTB, and Scarfs is kind of in no man's land right now. Okay, he does manage to get back.
Oh, Kura immediately falling, getting on the point a little bit too aggressive and going to get cleaned up by Scarf. So no demo for the side of the red team. Toss trying to work his way out, drop to 13 HP, will eventually get out, but the arrow from Ray actually makes sure the Rio is dead. So it's going to be a bit harder for the Yaomen to chase. They don't have a 6v4 advantage anymore to work with, especially with Cat Posse already respawning. So it's a really late death for them to kind of keep the train rolling and get more than just the mid here. So really clutch arrow to make sure that kill is secured.
Yeah, I think that might have actually been, saved them having to deal with a second push here, and I think Cat Posse are kind of happy. They have a 2-round lead. They're kind of happy to just post up and go in and see, which here's the sack from Alexandros. Does get a rocket out to Ray. Actually hits the wall shot on her, but not enough, what was that, a 80 plus a 30? Close, but not quite there. Maybe needed some more pressure, and it looks like a... Oh,
Rio
they're
sniper.
Gonna get... Okay, I don't think they expected the Rio sniper after the sack, so that's going to be a demo down, and that's going to signal a push coming in from the Portland Yaomen, and Rio's taking big space and big door. I don't know if they really know he's there.
They'll eventually know after so many shots. They see him now, and the Uber might just come out depending on how close the Portland Yaomen get. But this demo, Kura's already respawned. They're able to punish him pretty well, but they got to move more if they want to be able to take this too. And it didn't really move anyone behind, still trying to work with this sniper. I guess they're really going all in, and if you get a kill and it doesn't really net you the opportunity you need, and fine, just get another kill, I suppose. But there's only so long that you can, take your shots before Cat Posse will eventually be on the move and try to punish you. I can only imagine. Rio moving over to choke to see if he can get any shot over in this angle. Actually taking a lot of damage and will fall. There no counter spam coming on to Toss, so just rocket after rocket will make sure that Rio is cleaned up, and that will be the quote-unquote sack for the blue team. Will Toss immediately on the move, trying to work his way onto Det as the medic is too far, and is able to actually get that kill. And Yum Yum on sniper as well, fighting fire with fire, except Rio is dead earlier on. So no demo on the side of the blue team is going to mean that KTB gets a lot of room to try to poke through. So evil falling though.
Alexandros got 2 in the flank. It was a demo and a sniper, and neither were able to clean him up. And Alexandros, killed both with like 10 HP, and that's going to signal to back up the last. And The Uber did not get popped yet, but Ray is so low, gonna drop the Rio Jin, just holding W in, and this is turning into a disaster for Cat Posse.
Probably I can only imagine the pillar might have been in the way of May, and so she didn't see the scout getting close and gaining in to be able to get. He only did like 26 damage, so realistically, that milk there was probably just a sideline blocker, which is really unfortunate. Like, if you look at where the medic beam is, the medic beam is, it's literally in the way of where the scout came from. So unfortunate, but good play, making sure that medic is going to drop her Uber, and Styles now has 100%. Portland Yaomen in a pretty favorable position to get an honest attempt at trying to push this last. Got a gun set up and a pyro as well, trying to figure out what door they're going to push through. Got people spotting around, but not going to choose the right one this time, as the blue Uber will come through Shutter immediately, trying to get onto the pyro to put some damage, as well as the gun. Gun will die. Shiny Star actually has to work their way in the lobby, but Toss will fall. Yeah, Heavy, but no beam on the Heavy, so immediately dead. Ray on the opposite side, not really healing anyone, and it seems like Cat Posse is starting to crumble a little bit. I think the Yaomen have kind of figured out the weakness of Cat Posse, and it kind of feels like there's some moments where they're playing a little bit disjointed and allowing themselves to get picked. Specifically, Kura.
That was all off of the back of Alexander's killing the demo and the sniper. You know, it's nice, but if you don't have like a scout shotgun type of hit scan, you know, that can happen sometimes where the soldier just cleans up both of you and it happens. So big shout out to Alexandros there, making it work for his team, and actually a big bomb from Toss on taking. Styles actually taking some early damage, so red team gonna have a little bit of a health advantage here temporarily.
Fight continues on. Walrix takes some damage as well, but will be able to be arrowed up, continue in this fight. Same with both the red soldiers. A lot of damage expunged to make sure that they're able to apply some pressure, but immediately the bomb's going, collecting so many of the blue players as well. They're not losing any, actually. It's just Styles left alive, and after all that, that's a complete wipe. Holy. Cat Posse coming in hot for this mid. Even though it was a little bit slow, they made sure it was executed just enough to make sure they're able to get mid, get two, and they're beginning to peek last really early on to prevent a gun from being built.
I like this aggression, and yeah, I blinked on that mid, and Cat Posse was just on the other side. Cat Posse actually gonna use early. They say, you know, why not? You know, 6-player advantage. Let's just Uber in, get the space. Don't even let them leave spawn. It looks like that's gonna work in their favor. Look at the kills they're getting here. Look, Current gonna drop low, and actually this might not work out at all. It is a 3v2 here, but Alexandros is on the point, and it has a medic beaming him.
Ooh,
Styles gonna drop.
Immediately falling though. It was a good attempt, you know, trying to prevent, you know, the Uber from doing too much, but at the end of the day, so much space made sure it was maintained by using the Uber early to keep at least a good portion of the Yaomen locked in spawn, so unable to really get a whole lot of positioning there. But we are approaching on match point going into this last mid. Last mid was very heavily in the favor of Cat Posse, and the Yaomen really need to make sure they... Oh, Toss is doing the thing. Oh, he dead figured it was gonna... I think he heard the jumps on the rock maybe, so immediately a soldier down trying to go for the play, but will not find success there. So one person down in favor of the Yaomen, but both soldiers inside each other's models. Have to be careful about that, but able to make sure they're able to spend scarves in favor for another soldier on Cat Posse. So at the end of the day, I think that early death kind of spelled disaster for Cat Posse mid right at the get-go. So Yaomen gonna get a little bit of a freebie, but still worked for it nonetheless to be able to make sure the mid is secured in their favor. Now approaching on maybe a stalemate. They're kind of drawing just a little bit. They don't really want to commit too much, but if something looks free, you could take it. But I think both teams kind of realize there's nothing really for them, nothing really want to force. Just go ahead and reset, get your Uber, and try to break things the old-fashioned way.
I'm kind of curious that the Yaomen haven't sent anyone choked, because when they send people big door, all of Cat Posse rotates. They just have, you know, just Toss watching the choke point, and I think that if Yaomens were able to send players through choke there, they could maybe get a big play in. That's a thing to notice, that these big door fights are huge, but there comes the sack, and looks like Alexandros isn't going to be able to really get too much, but it is a solo sack into goalie second. It can be pretty challenging, and now it's the balls in Cat Posse's court to go get a pick, and it looks like they're going to go with the sniper here. I think the defensive sniper is a little unpredictable sometimes. He has heard a shot, so they do know now, and Toss actually drop down as well. They're going to go for a bomb. I don't know if he quite expected it, and Styles going to drop very low, but he ended up preserving his Uber with the milk there. Now, Portland Yaomen do have one pick to work off of, but they do have to worry about the Yum Yum sniper.
Yeah, a little bit less spam, but there's really strong sightlines that Yum Yum can use, and is actually going to the very top of the higher ground to make sure if anyone goes in through either door, that an angle will be achieved. And speaking of angles, right onto Scarce, making sure that that kill's collected. But Kura, once again, getting picked. I feel like I keep seeing Kura die over and over again, like way too much. But Yaomen definitely making sure that that is being punished to the best of their ability. KTB actually in drop down on. No, this is spotted, so creating some space. It's going to allow Toss to get in, though, so the soldiers are actually making sure this Uber's actually going to get forced randomly. I think they blind Ubered into choke as like a really aggressive play, only going to find Shiny for that, but
though.
Immediately starting the back cap's going to force Ray to maybe back up. Ray's actually left alone. Ray has to force on no one and is unable to meet up with anyone except for rolling out Kura, so seems like the chaos is actually working in Cat Posse's favor. They were unsure on whether they wanted to go for it, actually go back, and that's going to spell disaster for their hold. Only 3 players actually left alive. On last itself, trying to work their way to it as fast as possible, but the chaos will be in the Yaomen's favor, and it seems like a little bit of a miscommunication issue on the side of Cat Posse coming in off of the Portland Yaomen play to let Yaomen steamroll all the way to last to collect another round.
Yeah, I noticed that when you're talking about Kura dying, it's when he's trying to hold Big Door solo. So I think he needs a scout with him or something, because the soldier kind of just pogoed through his traps and there was kind of nothing he could do. It was a tragedy. But heading into the second mid, we do see some early aggression from Alexander, who's actually going to back up to his own side. KTB is actually the one who's going to fake bomb here. So Red is kind of hurt. The Ray half health, and Blue's going to try to take advantage of that. They're just steamrolling across the point right now. Look at this counter aggression from Red. They're able to just collect all the kills in the end. And a big
Toss though.
Big direct from Toss, and that's gonna end up. It's just Rio and Walrex alive with no medic and hoping for a dream. Rio is behind here, gonna hope he can get something done. And Walrex is so hurt. I don't know if he's gonna be able to do anything.
He gets like 1 rocket, if that, depending on who sees him first. Oh, he didn't. Okay, yeah, he didn't even get 1 off. So Rio just behind, gonna cause a little bit of chaos. You know, KTB, actually, I don't even think he's going to try to go behind for the player spawning. He knows it'd be a 2v1. He's actually just sneaking his way out and is able to make sure he lives. So good play from him. Don't want to be a late death, but dead. Speaking of late deaths, be careful, my friend. You are in hot water right now, but Roamer battle in river, not going to find any kills. Both just going to scurry away with their escape plans to make sure they live at the end of the day. So a little bit of a scuffle, but nothing to write home about, as Ray has 100% Uber after the end of that mid. So just got to pick a door and figure out what the defense is for the Yaomen before you go ahead and push through. It looks like it's going to be Shutter again.
They do have that level 2 sentry in the corner. I think that, okay, they spotted it now. It's going to fall. But both soldiers kind of elected to go take lobby pressure here. Alex is going to get caught in the corner. They do have the scout pressure on the point. Scout's actually going to live in this head. He's very low on the point, but there's all this kind of chaos in the post, and Cat Posse's hurt and kind of split up.
Yeah, no medic for the side of Portland Yaomen. That was really rough. They have to lose their positioning to go and get resup. And actually, Scarps is going to die trying to make sure he gets that resup. Heavy is a little bit too slow of a class. The Pyro doing his best, but will get arrowed up dead. Last one left alive. Ray respawning, but unable to get to the point in time. And that is going to be a match in favor of Cat Posse, 5-3.
Yeah, that last fight was a little scuffed, but in the end they managed to pull it through, you know, taking it slow and steady, I suppose. And that was, you know, yeah, 5-3, I guess that's kind of what I predicted, but I didn't think it'd be so fast. It was just very back and forth. It seemed like when one team got into it seemed like it would go very well. Cat Posse would either, you know, take mid and kind of roll mid to last, or Cat Posse would like randomly crumble at a weird time, and then Portland Yaomen would get the round. That seemed to be how the match kind of went.
Yeah, it was either mid rolls, or if there was a stalemate, both teams would very easily recognize an opportune moment to, you know, take advantage of a misplaced player. So, as well as, I feel like just chaos in general was kind of a bane for both these teams. Anytime something crazy would happen and it was really hectic, you could see that the other team was punished heavily by, you know, there are moments where you're unable to, you know, kind of figure out what's going on and what's the best thing to do. And we saw that near the end of the match as well. But at the end of the day, Cat Posse coming up on top, 5-3, a bit of a reverse of the previous match on Galoash. It previously was a 5-3 in favor of the Yaomen, but Cat Posse flipping the script to have things go in their favor this time around to make their head-to-head 1-1, which is definitely important for them if they want to stay ahead in terms of the rankings. Let's go ahead and look at some of the logs for the second half. I think it's going to be neat to look at what kind of changed. It was a bit more of an even half.
The Ray and Kurama kill stat is very exciting.
That feeling when your medic gets as many kills as your demo. I mean,
it's demo. It happens.
Yeah.
Kurama had a good game.
Yeah, you'd think that, Scout class is going to be the kill secure as well, but no, Toss coming up huge, actually. I noticed Toss's counter initiation was really good, especially on a lot of the mids. Like, there were moments where he was kind of shut out and didn't really get to participate, but they would just forget about him. Like, he'd just linger in his own big door and then do a high bomb, like, super late and be able to land on people. So, definitely a good shot from him, putting out a pretty stellar performance, I'd say, in both halves, really.
Yeah, I think he's my pretty clear MVP, Toss. He had a lot of very big plays, and, like, even though a lot of them did show up on the scoreboard and on the kill feed, but like a lot of times he just made so much space and so much damage that it was kind of like almost impossible for his team to lose a lot of those situations. He was just able to really navigate those like kind of sloppy team fights in a very, very good manner.
Yep. We actually, speak of the devil, we have Toss here for an interview off of his win versus the Portland Yaomen. Toss, how you doing? How you feeling after that match?
I wish I could always play that well. That was like a really good game for me. I'm excited for our match tomorrow. So maybe I can play it that well again.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the pacing of Gully Wash. Sometimes you play Gully Wash matches and it's just really, really slow and a lot of stalemates and not really fast gameplay. But this match, there was a couple stalemates, but they were solved pretty quickly. There was a pretty fast pace.
Yeah, we were just talking about like no round lasted longer than 5 minutes. It was such a fast game.
Was that something you guys came in kind of planning, or was it just a byproduct of like how things just kind of happened?
Well, stalemates are usually broken by like something happening, like a pick, and usually we'd either get wiped because Yaomen was on sniper, or I get a pick and then we'd like push in. So those are like every stalemate we had like ended pretty quickly.
I feel like I don't think Yaomen sniper was in pick. I just feel like we would have two soldiers very deep. There's that one time when they pop and Shiny was literally right in front of the Uber. So I don't know. It was like both our soldiers fed for the Uber, and then Yum dies and Shiny just dies to the Uber too.
I think it was also partially. It was also, I think, Karami, you got kind of left alone at big door sometimes, which is a little bit of a tragedy I saw, because you just like a soldier would just pogo through your stickies.
Yeah,
it was just, and you had no like hit scan to help you other than a sniper or something.
That's unfortunate. I think Yum went to get a buff, or I think he spawned, one of those two. But yeah, that is unfortunate.
How did you guys feel about the map pick? Did you guys just like forget to do the map pick? I'm curious, or did you want to fight them on this map specifically? I think it was randomly picked.
I was gonna choose Snakewater. I've been seeing that we haven't been practicing Gully Wash, but we've been practicing Snakewater, and I feel like we are super solid on Snakewater. But it wasn't like I couldn't choose. I did the map. I guess it was my fault partially for not doing the map bans earlier, but they didn't message me for to do it, so I guess it's my fault. But yeah, I think Gully Wash map pick wasn't bad. I just think it was questionable because we haven't practiced that for so long.
I swear to God, I hear SpongeBob music in your background.
What is that?
All right, well let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about the halftime, right? I would say that between the first half and the second half, there was a little bit of contrast in terms of you got some moments to adapt, and that's same to be said for the opposing team. They can come out with a little bit more force and kind of challenge some of the things you were initially showing with your team's playstyle. Can you give us a little bit of insight on what your halftime was like, and maybe even adapting in the middle of the second half to make sure that you're able to close things out? Or if Ray's not here, to any other person on Cat Posse.
Oh, I wasn't listening. I thought it was a question for.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if it was directed at me or not. But,
oh yeah, I just directed at you because you haven't been able to get a word in yet. So, what's your take on the adaptation of the second half and the halftime and stuff to make sure things stay in your favor?
We mostly adapted just by like working around our soldiers, because Toss kind of went crazy in the first half and he was feeling really good about himself. So I was like, all right, if we can like make more room for our soldiers and like let him just have a free roam, whatever he wants to do, and just feel good about himself, he'll just play way better. And so we kind of just like more centered around our soldiers second half. And then I told Kura, play your life and we'll win, and he did the opposite. So,
but we still won.
Yeah, true. We lost 2 rounds.
Sometimes it just be like that.
The Yum sniper was like game.
Did Yum get any kills?
He was trying to push. He was trying to push big door.
1 and 2.
He was trying to like push big door, and I know actually exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to like peek and get the med, but he wasn't wide peeking to commit. He was just like corner peeking it, so he never saw the medic. And then
is that what happened? Like I bombed in, I killed it, and I was like, okay, my job's done. And then we just like lose 5 or something. Like
yeah, Alexander said a really fat 2K.
Well, it's late in the season, so not really tons of matches left on your plate to try to figure out. So, with this match under wraps, are you guys looking at any other future matches that you're kind of looking at that you really want to, try to win against, or do you think at this point it's kind of just smooth sailing to, just keep
Or-
playing the matches and figure out where you place at the end of the day?
We're looking forward to tomorrow's match, which is 4D Gaming on Snakewater. Like again, I said on Snakewater we do really good. And then we're looking forward to GCI's match. Obviously I don't think we're gonna get the clear cut pick anymore, but we did really good against them, so I think we're confident we can do really good on a 5CP.
You guys have played clear cut so much, like 5 or 6 clear cut matches by
It's
now.
the best map. Let me
The
just put
best
that out
map
there.
ever.
I disagree.
Well, because you play medic.
Yeah,
But
but clear-
that map is
I play
prison.
Clear
that
cut
map
is
is
not a fun
basically a
medic
jump
deck.
map for me. Like,
I
sorry,
mean,
what?
if it gets you the wins, it
Yeah,
gets you
I'll-
the
you
wins,
get
I
the-
suppose.
Yeah, I get the dub. I mean, it's honestly kind of nice to have a map like Clear Cut be a good map for your team because a lot of other teams aren't that comfortable on it. It's not like Process. Like if you're good on Process, like everyone's good at Process. But like being good at like one of the more niche maps, I think is very very strong.
There should be more Koth. That's my opinion. More Koth maps.
Is Bagel in the pool this map? I don't think
We
I've
haven't
cast
It
played,
Bagel
is.
yet.
we have not
Is it?
learned Bagel.
We played Bagel once against 4D Gaming. We got rolled.
it was not a good look.
No,
I
that
don't think I've
was
seen a
it was
Bagel
against
match yet.
Witness.
Oh, true. When it's gaming.
Yeah, we like spawn camped and we're like, we're perma banning this map for the rest of the season.
Every team's got a permaban. That's just how it is. Well, maybe not every team. Most teams have a map that's just like, all right, now we're just permabanning this every single game.
Everyone except Froyo and like Witness.
I think we can say that for our match against what's it called? The mustard team. I forgot. Jug dealers.
Yeah.
After that map, I was like, all right, we're not gonna play Process anymore because it's like 2, 3 of our players don't fully understand the map. So like I guess like every map ban, we just decided to just ban Process.
I fully agree with that sentiment. Process is impossible.
Process is just one of those maps where everyone has just played it so much, and if you're like newer to the game, you would just have such a disadvantage.
Well,
And
good
I-
thing you got 3 bans at least.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I think Process is like I would say like totally a scout map, but I feel like there's so many jumps where I just think like scout soldiers can go nuts. But I just feel like based on our picks, we just want to go for picks that our soldiers can go crazy on. Same for flanking too. Like Gully, I would say a flank map. We always bring toss like behind to lobby and stuff like that, and then like they just take a final lobby. I think we're really good at flanking.
Well, definitely looking forward to see what the result is going to be for your match tomorrow, but it's time to move on to the shout-out phase and go ahead and wrap things up. Do you guys have any shouts before you close out the stream, starting with Kura?
Shout out to Yum Yum. Shout out to KTB. Everybody on Cat Posse. Shout out to Fluey. Shout out to Dolphin. OMG. But yeah, that's about it. Shout out to Killer too and Kobe's.
Ray?
Shout out to Space Ghost.
Beast.
True.
Frisco's was waiting for that.
I knew someone was gonna say it. Just
I
a
got
matter
you,
of
buddy.
time. Shout out to Skis.
What?
I always shout out Skis.
True. Shout out Young Yum Sniper, Space Ghost Coffee, Game Time. Shout out Shining Star, gave me a damage dealt thing.
Dude, I
Strange Fire.
fucking hate
Maybe that was my good luck charm.
Now you're going to have a special thing you have to equip on your player every single match, otherwise you're cursed.
Oh, I also use my old unusual. Shout out Production, shout out Casters, and Cat Posse Legacy.
Definitely shout out to the viewers for hanging out and watching with us, but that is probably going to be it for us for tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to be casting Ford versus Witness, so definitely a very hyped match to see, but actually, not Ford versus Witness, I misspoke. Witness versus Froyo, my bad. But definitely want to keep an eye out for other matches, because it is a Thursday after all. Might want to check the match pages to see what the results are for other matches that you aren't covering, like we talked about. Cat Posse are playing Ford tomorrow, so happy to see what's going to happen with that. But for tonight, that is going to be it for us. I've been Jarrett, casting with Space Ghost, with Dolphin on production. Thank you, and good night.
Good.